lastly, after we add this, we have to close our button. First thing first, we are increasing the button height. Then after we add the element, basically we have to collapse the button, and that should be the last step. How can we provide this kind of animation? So that is going to be chained animation. And here we are just going to create another height animation in order to collapse the button. Here, what we can do, we can say that after the rotation controller is done, basically completed, we can chain height animation. And the height animation is gonna be different, okay? So the first height animation we are applying is starting from 50 and ends in 200. That's why after the rotation controller, we have to change height animation. Basically, we have to create another one and chain it. I will say rotation controller. And then there is a status listener. So we will add status listener. So this status listener is gonna give us status of the rotation controller. And using the status here, we can basically detect if the rotation animation is done or if it is failed. So this kind of things can be controlled using the status. Here, this is animation status, and then we can say if the status is animation status dot completed. So if rotation is done, what we are going to do, we are going to chain a new height animation. And that height animation is gonna start from 200 and end 50 pixels. So that's why here I will take the height animation. Basically, I will change the height animation value here, and that's gonna be 200. Why we are using 200? Because currently in this state of the animation, the height of the container is 200. That's why we are using 200. And the end should be 50. So that means we are basically resetting the height animation by chaining this. And after that, what we are going to do, we are just going to use height controller and we are just going to forward it. So let's see what kind of effect we are getting from that. Here, I will click to the add. Okay, nothing is gonna happen. So maybe instead of using the height animation like that, we can use reverse. Okay, so that's basically reversed animation. So let's try that. I will click to the add to chart and click to that, and okay, it is working. Now if I click to that, and as you see, it is working. Okay, we get another problem and I will come to that. But before that, if we look at this animation, you can see that there is a little bit of delay. But in our animation, if I click, as you see, it is happening immediately. But here, it is actually happening with a little bit of delay. Maybe 300 milliseconds is gonna be okay. So here, I will use feature.delayed again, and the duration is gonna be, for example, 300 milliseconds, and here I'm just going to reset it. Okay, now if I restart the application, let's see. So after the animation is done, as you see, there is no any buttons right over here. But if I click to another element, you will see that there are buttons. So for example, if I click to this add, animation is working, but second time there is no any buttons. But for this element, we can get the buttons. So why is that happening? That is happening because here we said if is clicked. Basically, if this container is clicked, then we are just going to show these buttons. Okay, so here, just because we clicked to this gesture detector once and the value is turned from the false to true, in that case we are getting the elements. Okay, we are getting these elements. But second time when I click to this, we are getting the is clicked as false because we are clicking second time. So again, first time I'm clicking to this button. Okay, I just clicked. Now the is clicked is true currently. And then second time, which means right now if I click to that, the is clicked is gonna be false. And just because it is false, we are not getting any button, because here we are checking if is clicked is true, then show the buttons. So how can we change it? We can basically say after reversing the animation, the is clicked is gonna be false. That's it. Now if I restart the application and if I click to this button, so if I click to the add button, okay, we run to another issue. Here you can see before collapsing, buttons is disappearing. Maybe that is cool effect for you, but we have to do something identical with our original design. That's why that animation is not actually acceptable. Instead of having the is clicked inside of the feature delayed, we can put it outside of the delay. Okay, again, we are getting different effect. Instead of using the is clicked false here, maybe we can just use true right over here. Okay, so right now if I try that, okay, no problem, it is working as we expected, right? So here problem is solved because actually this is clicked is not necessary right now. I think just because we used single child scroll view, it is just showing the element that is visible inside of the column. So the only add to chart is visible, and anything that overflows the column is just hidden in the screen. I think that is how the single child scroll view is working. Instead of starting from the false, if I start from true, actually we are just going to get the same behavior. So if I click to that, add it. So if I click again, so button is always is there. Okay, I saw another issue right over here. After that, the button color is still green, so it should be white. That's how it should be, but after the animation is done, it is still there, which means rotation animation should be reset again. So we can reset the rotation animation. When we are going to reset it, we are going to reset this animation after reversing the height controller. So here, if I just say rotation controller dot reset, so that's gonna be enough, I think. So if I go back and try again, that's not actually good idea, because here this 300 milliseconds is very quick. That's why it is reversing the height controller, and at the same time it is resetting. That's why we can see that color is changed first of all from white to green, and then immediately after green to white. So that's not how we want it. So in that case, we can use then method after the reverse. So this is ticker feature, which means the reverse is gonna take time. So after reversing the height controller, we just want to reset our rotation controller. So here I'm just going to say rotation controller dot reset. Now let's try. Here I'm just going to add it. Now as you see, animation is reset, and that's how the original version is gonna be. Also, let's test this. Why we reset the rotation controller? Because the color was green after collapsing, so it should be white in the original version. So that was green because we are checking if the rotation animation value is 2p. And even if the button is collapsed, animation value was 2p because that was the end of the animation. So we have to reset it. Basically it should be 0, and only in this case the button will be white because we are checking. If it is 2p, which means if the rotation animation is done, it will be green, but if it is, for example, 0, it will be white. That's why we just reset the rotation animation.